The following program, offered by Fox 19, includes lawyers licensed in Kentucky. For those lawyers to maintain compliance with the Kentucky Bar Association requirements, the phrase, "This is an advertisement," must appear on the screen. Moore Law is underwritten in the public interest by the Moore Law Firm, a legal professional association. This is Moore Law on Fox 19.
Welcome to Moore Law on this Monday morning. Are you struggling with financial problems and considering bankruptcy as a way out? What are the pros and cons of filing for bankruptcy? What type of bankruptcy might be best for your situation? Will you lose your home? Will your credit be ruined? If you have a question about any type of bankruptcy, give us a call at 513-421-4691. The phone lines are open now. Let's take a look, though, real quick at what we will have on the next couple of weeks. We'll have on October 8th, Elder Law, on October 15th, all about injuries, and on October 22nd, landlords versus tenants. Again, though, today we'll be talking about bankruptcy. With me today and every Monday morning, Don Moore, how are you?
I'm doing great, Deb. How are you?
I'm good, but I'm surprised. You've recovered from your weekend already.
I have. We had a great weekend. You know, for over 25 years, my wife and I have had a hayride out at our farm. And so we did that this past weekend, and so I'm getting along well. I think we've got a couple photos that we brought in.
You said about 300 people?
Yeah, we had about 300 people. There's a picture of Dan. He was hauling a load of kids on the hayride, and we were trying to get him to smile, but he just couldn't quite muster it.
I see that.
And then we had another picture, and it was actually my best side.
There you go, but you're smiling, I can see.
From the back, yeah. That's me pulling, they shot that from the hayride itself. It was a lot of fun. A lot of kids had a lot of fun. We enjoyed it. My wife and I enjoy it more than all the kids do, because it's just
You certainly had a perfect day for it. It was beautiful.
We did indeed. And we have a perfect guest today. Steve Crow, welcome.
Good morning, Don. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Good morning to you.
Steve has been practicing for more than 35 years. He does bankruptcy, does domestic, he does probate. He's got an office out in Milford. It's Crow and Welch, his partners. He's practiced with for a long time, went to Chase Law School, and he's going to help us today with the bankruptcy questions.
Okay, sounds great. You know, Steve, let's start off with what's a tipping point? How does somebody know? I think a lot of people could get in a lot more trouble. They could just keep going down a road without asking for help. When do you know you really have a problem and you need to talk to a lawyer?
Well, Deb, I think the primary thing that people have to look at is when you have trouble making your mortgage payment, your house payment, paying your rent, or your car payment, the main items. When those things can't be paid or are starting to fall seriously behind, it's best to talk to a lawyer before things totally get out of control.
Go ahead,
Well,
Don?
I was just going to say, if you're paying beyond where you should, if you're a real candidate for bankruptcy, and there's no choice, if you continue paying creditors, you're kind of throwing good money after bad, aren't you?
I think you could be digging a hole, and if you don't pay the right creditors, that's when you can make things worse.
Yeah.
So again, you have to have the ability to take care of the main things you need in life: your house, your cars, and you know, if you become garnished and somebody seizes your wages, that's really going to cause you trouble with keeping your home, paying your rent, or keeping your car.
In a situation like that, though, I'm sure it gets very overwhelming for folks, and I think some people would think, I can't pay my bills, how am I supposed to pay a lawyer? So can you explain how bankruptcy lawyers get paid and how the filing works?
Generally, people will meet with an attorney, and we will advise them that if they've made a decision to file bankruptcy after speaking with their lawyer and they need some help, the easiest way to deal with that is if you quit paying the bills, listen to the lawyer, and the lawyer will tell you which bills you need to pay, which are important to keep paying, and which aren't. Then you can save up some money to retain the lawyer. If you try to pay all the bills all the time, you're not going to get that accomplished. So you need to pick and choose and listen to your lawyer. He can help you with that.
Okay, great. Let's get to the phones now. First off, we have Stephen in Cincinnati. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, I want to know, if you're married, can you file for bankruptcy separate from your wife?
The answer to that is yes, you can. You're allowed to file separate cases. However, your spouse's income may have some determination on what type of bankruptcy you file and your qualifications. But yes, either spouse can file a separate case. It becomes a little more complex when you have to worry about who is liable for what debts, but the short answer is yes, you can file your own separate case.
Okay, let's go. I think we have time for one more before the break. We have Jerry in Cincinnati. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great.
Okay, tell us a little bit about your call.
Okay, I have so much medical bills are piling up, and various, you know, your regular bills. And I've been laid off, you know, and the income is just dropping like X amount of dollars to almost zero, and you don't half the time. I don't know if I'm going to pay the medical bills or if I'm going to be able to buy food to eat and stuff like that.
Jerry, let me ask you one quick question before Steve handles that. In your case for the medical bills, as a result of an injury, or were they just a result of an illness?
It was a result of an illness.
Okay. So Steve, what's her best bet?
I think that's what we talked about before, Don, is when you can't put food on the table and you can't meet some basic necessities for the family, that's when you really need to check with a lawyer and proceed with some type of bankruptcy relief that may be available. So you definitely want to stop that kind of problem so that you can afford your house payment again, your car payments, and food for your family.
Okay. All right, we'll be right back on More Law with more questions about bankruptcy. Stay with us.
Welcome back to More Law on Fox 19, your legal questions live, with local broadcaster and award-winning reporter Deb Haas and Cincinnati personal injury attorney Don Moore, recognized by Ohio Super Lawyers. More answers, more help, more law on Fox 19.
We take you now to More Law Connection, where attorney Dan Moore is answering viewer emails. Good morning, Dan.
Morning, Deb. This morning we have a question from Michelle. She says, are grocery stores responsible for damage done to cars when the carts are left out in the parking lot? This is a common issue for grocery stores because they have carts in their parking lots and they have cart corrals and they have cars and all that stuff mixing together. So the law says that a grocery store has to maintain its parking lot and the rest of its premises in a reasonably safe condition. This means that they have to protect against too many carts, they have to protect against dangerous potholes and that kind of stuff in their parking lot. However, they are not a guarantor, or they don't guarantee that no injury happens in the parking lot or that no damage happens in the parking lot. All they have to do is do that which is reasonable, which means oftentimes just having a cart corral, having somebody go out frequently to retrieve those carts. Practically speaking, it's going to be really difficult to establish that that store is responsible for damage to the car when the cart hits it. So probably something you don't want to mess with. Deb, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Dan. We're back talking about bankruptcy with our guest, Steve Crow. Again, thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
All right, let's get back to the phones. They're really ringing today. We want to go now to Lee in Cincinnati. Lee, you have a question about a filing that happened and then your spouse passed away?
Yes.
I'm so sorry about that, but can you tell us a little bit about what your question is?
Yes. My husband filed bankruptcy, Chapter 13, and he recently passed away, and I'm just wondering how that will be handled now.
Steve?
Well, Lee, you're lucky that in Chapter 13 you can continue a Chapter 13 case if the family or the estate desires to continue it, so that you can continue the protection from your creditors and perhaps keep your Chapter 13 going to save your home again or your car. So it's entirely possible that you can keep that Chapter 13 going forward as long as you can provide the funding for it. So as long as there's sufficient income to keep it moving forward, you could do that. Or secondarily, you could ask the court to maybe modify the plan to make it more affordable for you as the surviving spouse or the other family members.
Okay, and Don, I think you wanted to follow up on that?
Yeah, Steve, I just had a couple of questions actually. You mentioned Chapter 13, and it's my understanding that there are two primary filings that an individual can make. One is Chapter 7, one is Chapter 13. Would you please explain those?
Well, yes, Don, the Chapter 7 is a proceeding in which you liquidate your assets, you eliminate your liabilities.
Clean slate.
That's correct.
Okay.
And with the Chapter 13, you have an ongoing repayment plan that's structured and based upon your ability to pay and your income. And it's a plan that you basically devise yourself, again, based upon your income and your needs for your regular family living expenses. in a Chapter 13, it's not necessary that you repay your debt in whole or in full. You might be able to pay as little as 5 or 10 or 15 or 20%, depending upon your ability.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's go now to, I think we have Pat in Fort Thomas. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning. I have a question. In my divorce decree, I was awarded money. Since then, my ex filed bankruptcy. Somebody told me that I could file for income tax on that money.
Is that true?
I'm not aware of what you could file income tax-wise, but she could certainly file a claim with the bankruptcy state to be paid whatever claim she holds in the domestic relations case. Your claims in a domestic relations case also involve whether it's a Chapter 7 filing or a Chapter 13 filing, and there's quite a bit of difference between the treatment of your domestic obligations in either of those cases.
Okay. All right, let us check back now with Dan Moore with another email question. Dan?
Okay, thanks, Deb. Our next email is from Charlotte. She says, my daughter-in-law won't let us see our grandchildren. My son is in Iraq. Is there a way we can have visitation rights? Well, the law doesn't provide much for grandparents in this regard. This is a difficult issue. In most situations, grandparents do not have automatic rights to visit their kids or their grandkids. So in order to get those rights, what you have to do is you've got to go to the court and have the court order that those rights be given to the grandparents. Well, the court's typically not going to do that unless there's a situation where the parents aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and it'd be in the best interest of the kid for the grandparents to have visitation rights. That's a hard thing to demonstrate, and as long as the parents are reasonably doing what they're supposed to do, the court's going to give those parents a lot of deference in how they decide what to do with their kids and who gets to visit them. So just a tough situation. If you have a question, go to the Fox 19 webpage, click the More Law link, fill out the Send Us Your Questions form, and click Submit. We will do our best to answer that question. Deb, that is all I have from here today. I am going back to the office, and you guys need to stop making fun of me not smiling in those pictures. So
I wasn't making fun of you. That was your father.
Yeah, guilty. Yeah, that was me. Okay. Well, you're going to have to start smiling in the pictures, Dan.
That gives us all something to work on. We will be right back with more law. Stay where you are.